Hi everyone, it's Ashley with Going Crochet, and for today's video, I have a fun one for you guys. I'm going to give you guys my top 10 tips for your next market to help you make it more successful, more open and welcome to your customers to want to come in and take a look around and maybe give you a purchase. So obviously this is all based off of my own personal experience and my own opinions of what I think brings in more of a success when it comes to markets and what can get you better customer feedback, better customer interaction, and just having someone come and actually view your stuff rather than just walk right by. I've been doing markets for many years. I started off probably 15 years ago on my first market. Now, I wasn't doing them as much as I do them now. I was doing maybe one a year for many years, but I did learn through all of those years of ups and downs, fails and wins, what works and what doesn't. And I definitely have transformed my own space to work for me, my brand, my interests, and my customers. When I first started doing markets, I had a table. I took a sheet and put it on the table, and I just laid everything flat. I didn't have any levels. I didn't have any interest, any eye-stopping pieces, anything that really drew your eye in. And I must say, those first few markets I did weren't very successful. Everyone would just walk by and not even notice me. And at the time, I didn't really know why. I see my vendor neighbors all doing well, people stopping, communicating, and browsing their booths, but I wasn't seeing that. And so that's when I started kind of looking around and seeing what makes their booths or their products different than mine. Why are they more special than me? And that's where I'm coming in with all of these and tips for you guys. So tip number 1 is levels. Bring pieces to each and every market that are going to add levels to your table or next to your table to draw the eye in to your stuff. Like I said before, when I first started doing markets, I just laid everything flat. I didn't have levels. I didn't have anything. The more I looked and watched my other vendor neighbors, the more I learned, okay, these people have levels. They have pieces that are drawing their eye in. I should do this and I should do that. And I learned from there. I'm not telling you that you need to go and buy 15 pieces that are quite expensive to be successful at a market. That's not how I started. That's not how I expect you to start if you're just starting out. Or maybe you do have all kinds of pieces, but you don't really know how to put them out. When I first started, I would get cardboard boxes like this, something that maybe you ordered in the mail and it shipped to you in a box, or maybe a shoebox that you bought and you had stashed away, or anything, any kind of box you have, a FedEx box, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to look pretty. It just has to be fairly stable to hold up the product that you are trying to showcase. And so I would take boxes like these and I'd have my 6-foot table and I'd lay the boxes down on the table first, add whatever layers I wanted. Sometimes I'd add a box this height, add a box this height next to it, try to do the whole length of the table, and then I would just take a sheet and I would put it on top of my boxes and flatten it out and make it so it was stable. It wasn't going to move around. No boxes were going to fall or anything. And that's how I first started. So inexpensive because it's something I already had in my house. I had the boxes in my house already and I had the sheets in my house already. That started to add layers to my booth. I started to get more looks at my table. The further into markets I ended up going to, I would invest a little bit more each time if I was increasing or if I saw a difference in how the market was turning out. And then I would go through my house and to look for little things like this. So this is just a random basket I had in my house already, just sitting around in my house. And so I would take like a basket like this and put some small things in, maybe layer it with a festive towel or maybe something that I've made myself, a layer in here to pop it up a little bit higher so that people can see the product better because it's closer to them and it's laying in something pretty. And just add that to the table. And that also adds interest and levels and eye-catching things. Even just tipping a basket over sideways and having something look like it's falling out of the basket is a great way to display pieces. I do this with my pumpkins all the time. I'll take a basket and I'll put it on its side, and then I'll just take my pumpkins and make them look like they're falling out of the basket. And that really draws an eye in, and it's a great seasonal product to have. Other things that I had just laying around my house, I had this big hamper, and I noticed that this hamper wasn't great for clothing because it held in moisture. And so when you're putting wet clothes in here, it's not a good hamper to have, right? So I decided different material hampers would be more important than having old mildewy clothes. And I decided to use this hamper as a display piece. Now this is a blanket I made. It's not nice, it's not beautiful in any sense, but it's something I made. And so what I do, I can't sell it because it's all wonky. It wouldn't be sellable in my standards. So I layered down on the bottom. So I have this blanket I had already in my stash of blankets, layered something I actually made myself in here, just because I like to display my talents in different ways. Even if no one's gonna buy it, it's still visible to them. And then I take a bunch of my plushies and I lay out all my plushies in here. You've probably seen it. If you watched any of my videos of my markets, you've seen me laying plushies in here and putting it on display. I literally take a bin, a storage bin, cover it with another blanket I've made, and put this on top so it's higher up and easier to access than just this being completely flat on the ground. And this I usually use for like items I just want to get rid of. I'm over having them, and I stuff them in here. I add a sign saying that they're sale priced items, and voila, you have a great display that brings a lot of attention, is kind of off on its own, so it makes it a little bit more special, and it didn't cost me anything because I already had these pieces in my house. Other ways of getting pieces for your display is by making them. Now, I do have a white shutter display. It was literally shutters I got from a friend. They were changing out their shutters. They had like the old wooden shutters and they were changing to vinyl. So they were taking them off of their house. So I asked them if I could take a couple of them, and they gave those shutters to me. I spray painted them down. I cleaned them, spray painted them down, and added some hinges to them. And now that is a really big plushie display that I use at each and every market. Not the easiest to travel with. So if you do want something a little bit more lightweight or a little bit easier to put in your vehicle, you might want to look into purchasing something very similar to this, but it works for me because it was pretty cheap, because all I had to do is pay for spray paint and hinges, and it works for me. It's been working for me for years. I started using it as a hat display. I'll show you an image here of how I used it as a hat display, and then I transformed it into a plushie display once I changed into plushie making versus the hats, and this is what it looks like for me now. Now, that is one item that I have had for many, many years, and been using for many years, and just a light spray of spray paint every couple of years is very helpful in maintaining this. And then another item that I have recently had made for me was just this simple display. Just some pieces of wood and dowels that weren't getting used, and literally not much to this, but now I use this as my car hanger display, and I can hang a bunch of things on here. put it up high so that people can see it. And there you go. You have a cute little display that uses items that you might find around your house that you just piece together. I mean, it's literally like bolted and screwed into places, and it works. It works for me. Once again, not the lightest of weight or the prettiest aesthetic wise, but when you have things hanging off of it, people don't really notice that part of it anyway, and it works. It works for me. It was inexpensive. It didn't cost me a thing. It was all things we had already, and it was in a lot of attention because you have all of those pieces that are hanging individually so you can see them up close and personal rather than going and buying a display piece very similar to that online for a lot of money. Garage sales are another great place to find things. I found this shelf at a garage sale. You can see it needs a little touching up because I put this in and out of my car multiple times throughout the year. So it gets banged up a little bit, but that's okay. A little bit of spray paint's not gonna hurt this thing. This actually was more of this color when I first purchased it at the garage sale. I got it for $5. Bought a can of spray paint, maybe two, and spray painted it, let it dry, and now it's a great display piece that I have for each market. It matches my table covering because I mainly go with a black tablecloth, and so this is black to go along with it. It matches my theme, and there you go. You have a great stand for cheap. So go into the Dollar Tree and find a ton of pieces for your markets. You can get little baskets to put your items in. You can even get bigger pieces like this sometimes at the Dollar Tree. So just looking for items that you can place things in, just having the imagination of what you want to place in it before you purchase it will help in deciding what works best for you in your display. But the Dollar Tree is a great place to find cheap display pieces that will bring colors or levels or anything else to your market. And of course, there are some pieces I have bought recently from stores that cost more, but for me personally, were worth it to purchase. I have a display stand. I'll show you a picture of the display stand here. I got this from Amazon. It works great. It folds up flat. I can put all of my small items on it, and it works for me. So I use that at every market. Yes, that costs more money. I think it was closer to like $30, $40 or something like that. But it was worth it for me as much as I've been investing into my markets to get a more expensive piece to use at a market. So pieces like this where you can display keychains or other items is great. You can find this. I think I got this one from Michael's. And so if you have lots of hanging items that you want to use, you could use something as such. I actually don't use this anymore. So sometimes a purchase you might make might not work out for you in the long run. And that's another thing to be conscientious of. Don't spend too much money on items first thing when you're first going into markets. Really look around your house and try to assess what you can use that you already have versus just throwing so much money into markets because you might not decide to use those display pieces in the long run. Like I have a few pieces that I don't use at all anymore, but I have purchased. So yes, I can use them still and I can adjust my setup and I keep them all very close by. And you know, you can change up your setup depending on the items you have, but sometimes you might purchase something and realize that it doesn't really work best for you and what you're trying to showcase. Another item that I purchased, I think I got this at Marshall's on sale is, this is actually a fruit stand. I bought this with the intentions. I said, well, if I can't use it for a market, I can definitely use it for fruit, but it doesn't fit my kitchen. It's too high for where I would like to put it underneath the cabinet. So it just doesn't fit anyway. So I can't use it, but I have used this in markets before, displaying smaller items all around, and it is really cute and it can be useful. It does still fit well for certain markets when I have less items. But right now I have a lot of inventory, so it's just something bulky on my table that takes away space for me. So I don't use it currently, but I can see myself using it in the future. But yeah, something like this. You have 2 tiers here to display different pieces and showcase what you have. And people are very drawn to these types of items. I have noticed in the past when I have used this, people are very drawn to this specific piece. And last, for display pieces, you've probably seen a lot of these floating around at many markets. These kind of are a trendy thing that people use these days. The reason I use these is because I can pack things inside them. They're useful for me home, traveling for markets, and display pieces for markets. So it has a 3-in-1 thing for me. I put all of my smaller items in here. I stack these up on top of each other, and you can carry them, and it saves you a lot of space, saves a lot of lugging of other items when you can just throw your pieces into this and then take them out and put them on display. It was definitely worth the investment for me. I have 5 of these, and I use them at every single market. You can display them sideways, up and down, or even put them upside down like this and have things sitting on top of them. All kinds of different ways to display your pieces. And it just kind of goes with my booth setup now. And then when I have my bottom piece filled with plushies, I can stack this one right up on top, and then when I am carrying things to my car, I can carry it like this, and it saves me some lugging of items, of bags or boxes that I'd have to put these plushies in. I just use these, and yeah, that is a great way that you can do multifunctional display pieces as well. Okay, now that I've talked your ears off on just tip number 1, let's move on and go a little bit quicker through the rest of these tips. For tip number 2, I would say table covering is just as important as your display pieces and your leveling of the display pieces. Now, like I said at the beginning of this, when I first started, I would literally take a sheet from my bedroom and throw it onto my table. Of course, I always made sure the sheet was either seasonal to the occasion that I was using it, or blank. A nice blank tablecloth is great because then it doesn't distract the person from what you're trying to show. It helps to showcase that piece. I now use straight up black tablecloths for my markets. But when I was first starting out, I would use something seasonal like this because the only time I was really doing markets was right before Christmas. And so it was wintertime. And so I would use a tablecloth like this and drape it on top. This is a queen size sheet, just a flat sheet, not the fitted sheets, just the flat sheet. And so that would help me to have lots of space, to have it draped down the sides to cover up what was underneath the table, because you don't want to see what's underneath your table. For me anyway, because I throw all my bags and all my extra overflow items and all of the things go underneath of my table. So I don't want anyone seeing that. So this would drape over the table. It would be big enough to help me have those layers with my cardboard boxes. And it was pleasing to the eye because it's not too crazy. It's just a basic snowflake design, pretty soft and subtle. And it would still help me showcase my items, and it would give me that theme of the season. And so that's what I used. Nowadays, I use straight up black tablecloths because I have lots of color in my plushies. So I feel like it helps my plushies pop out more with a black tablecloth. You can do white, pink, whatever color you love. the most, or you think will help you and your items shine the best, is the color you should go with. Now, going along with table coverings, I also want to say that if you have your own logo or something, this is a great time to add that as well. I know a lot of people will take like signs and drape them up behind them, mostly at outdoor events where they can put it up on their tent. I found that what works best for me, I just recently got my own logo. And the first thing I did once I got my logo is I got myself a table banner. So it's a table banner, it drapes across my table. So my table, when my table is lengthwise like this, I can drape it across. It has my logo right on the front. So when you enter into my booth, you see my logo. And I have definitely noticed a big difference in how people are drawn to this and how they comment on the logo, on how they comment on the name I have. And it really does help draw people in more to my booth now that I do have this logo. They ask questions, they ask why I came up with the name. And that has also been something that I have recently just done, like within the past few months. And it's certainly improved customer interactions, and that's another thing to keep an eye out. And then they can always know where to find you, because they know they can look for your logo and they can find you at a specific market that you are going to be at. All right, number 3, as I just mentioned, I like to have nice bright colors at my markets that draw your eyes in. And I don't necessarily mean like it has to be bright colors. It's just colors that go with the theme of your items. Something consistent and cohesive throughout your booth that will represent you and what you are trying to showcase. Now for me, that typically means like natural colored animals. I like to go with the natural looking animals as shown here, that really consist of items that you would typically see out in the wild. And so those are kind of the colors that I go for, more of a natural theme. Of course, I do have, like I said, bright colors and everything else within my table, but these are kind of the cohesive items that I bring in to draw in that crowd. And of course, while I have all of these out, I might as well go on to the next item on my list, and that is having your staple items available with you for each market that you know have always been requested in the past. Let's say cows are very popular at my markets. I have so many people that always will say, do you have any cows? And so of course I keep cows at every market. If I don't have a cow at a market, typically chances are someone's going to ask me for a cow, and I have to tell them, no, I'm sorry, I am out of cows at the moment. And then they move on looking for a cow somewhere else. So cows are one of those items that is listed often at my markets. So I always have at least one cow available for each and every market. Goes the same for elephants. Elephants are another one of those items specifically for me that are requested very often. So I always have at least one elephant available. Of course, dinosaurs are one that is very often requested. The new one for me has been horses. So I have definitely been trying to keep up with having horses at each and every market. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult when you have so many items that you know people are requesting, and they do go well for you. So you definitely have to keep up on what is going at each and every market, so you know you have one available for each of those markets. I know I had a market where I thought I had a specific item, and then someone came into my booth and said, do you have, let's say it was a horse, do you have a horse? And I'm like, yeah, of course I have a horse. I always have a horse. And I was looking around and I couldn't find a horse. It had gone at my last market and I forgot to remake one. So there was a loss in a sale because I didn't have it available, and they wanted it then. They didn't want to have it ordered. They didn't want to order it or special order it, custom order it. They wanted it right then and there. And so I lost the sale because I wasn't keeping track of my inventory and I didn't have what I usually have in stock available because I thought I already had one. So just keep track of what your staple items are, what people like mainly. That way you know that you're going to have at least one in stock, and maybe you're not going to sell it at every single market, but chances are if it's something that is highly asked for, you will. So having those staple items in stock for each and every market is really important. Now, some of my staple items are my smaller items, which brings me to my next item, which is having $10 and under items. So if you've been following me for any length of time, you know I have my small rack items, and these items consist of little items like this, which go for $4. It's just a teeny tiny item, simple, quick to make, and kids love it, especially if they've only got $5 in their pocket and they want to get something. They have the option of having these teeny tiny items. I also have items that go a little bit bigger for closer to a $10 mark, but I like to have little and bigger all in this one little rack, so that when a kid says, do you have anything for $5? I can steer them towards this rack that has 5 different items on it that they can choose from, that they can afford. I think it's really special that they are able to pick something out for themselves that they can afford, and that they got to have an option from, rather than having only like one item that they can pick from, or having 0 items that they are able to afford. And so having that $10 and under rack is really important for my own self. Of course, these items are pretty quick to make. You can make multiples of them, have them all sitting ready to go. They do draw in attention because people like to look through and see all of the different varieties that you can have. I like to change out my own varieties. With the $10 items, I have a wide variety that shifts throughout the year. I've done different things like skunks, elephants, crayons, pickles, the little Yeti guy, bears, all kinds of different creations. And then for the little $5 items, you know, I always have stingrays, turtles, chicks, ducks, penguins, little things that kids will definitely love, and they can squeeze and have fun with. So having that $10 and under area has been really beneficial for me, because even if you can't afford a $30 item, most chances are if you do really want something, you can afford to get something for $5 or $10 and under. Now, being similar to, but not exactly the same, I'm going into the next bullet point, which is going to be also having a wide variety of pricing. So yes, you have those $10 and under items, but you also want to have higher dollar items as well, because there are going to be some people that want bigger, more extravagant items. Some people are going to want teeny tiny items, and some people that want something within the middle of that. And so I like to have a wide variety of items, from $4 items and all the way up to something like this, which would be closer to like a $100 item. A bunch of items to show you guys that have different prices and sizes, because you know, everyone's gonna want something a little bit different. So you have the teeny tiny little items that go for very inexpensive, and then you move up to, you know, the more of like the $10 items, and then you build it up and it gets a little bit more intricate, right? So something simple like this is obviously going to be less expensive than something like this, which is a little bit right around the same size, maybe a little bit bigger, but has more detailing into it. So you have these items here, which are, you know, $12 to $15 range. And then you can slowly build up, you know, you're taking more time, taking more detail, having something a little bit more unique. Turtles are always a popular one as well, to keep in stock. And look at this, I have mama and baby that match. So someone that maybe wants to create a set, you can have the little miniature items that match the bigger items. So you can be like, oh, hey, look at this. They can be a set. And then that might encourage someone to say, oh, okay, well, I want both then. And then we just keep slowly building off of the sizes, going a little bit bigger and bigger each and every time. until you get to that really big piece that really draws in the eyes. You can see we have really big, jumbo, maybe a large, or medium, down to kind of like a small item, and then going into the minis. And there you have all kinds of different size options, all kinds of different variety in here that will kind of call to everybody. So each and every person can have their own option. Now, I know with me, I tend to have a lot more options than many people. So if you want to keep your options smaller and just have like maybe a couple different sizes with a couple different themes to it, depending on what you are bringing to your market, can also depend on you and your branding and what you enjoy making and everything else. I know here there's a lot of different options and different items. So if you don't want to make 20 different creations, and you want to narrow yours down to maybe like 4 or 5 different creations, that's fine too. Just know that different price points is really important for each and every individual customer. So you are hitting all of those marks that maybe someone that has a $40 price point is going to be looking for something different than the person that has the $4 price point. To the next item, since I have him here now, having a show-stopping piece is really important as well, I find, because it's going to draw the eye in. People are going to see this from afar because it's going to be displayed up nice and high. You're going to put it somewhere where they can see it first thing, and it's going to draw the person in. And now, even though they may not want to purchase this because they'll pick it up and say, oh, that's way too expensive, I can't get that, but they are going to come because of it. They're going to be drawn to it and say, I have to go see what is over there because look at that piece. They're going to be drawn to it, come for this, and then maybe leave with something more like this. And that is okay, because this is what got you to pull that person in the first place. And yes, something like this is going to take a lot longer to sell, if it even does sell, than something like this is going to. But this is, one, for me, it was fun to make, and two, it's worth it, because yeah, you might not ever sell it, you might have to sit on it for the rest of your life, but at the same time, it does draw in a crowd, it does get a lot of attention, a lot of interaction. People ask me all the time, how long did it take you to make? How long have I been crocheting that I'm able to make something like this? And it just brings in conversation, interaction, and interest into your booth. So that showstopper piece, I feel like, so important. I only have a couple more things to hit before I am done. Before I hit on one that I feel like is really important, I did want to mention bags. Having option of bags is really cool to have, because not everyone offers bags at their booths. Now, it is an extra cost, I understand that, but in the long run, in the long scheme of things, it's really not that much more of a cost. If you buy it in bulk, you have them for as long as you have them. I mean, I buy like bags in the 50s or 100s, and yeah, it seems like a big cost up front, but they do last quite a while. I've had these bigger bags for an entire season, and I haven't had to resupply on them yet, because not as many people are going to maybe be purchasing something that needs to fit into a size bag like this. And so having this option available is really going to be beneficial. You wouldn't believe how many people, one, don't bring bags with them to have a handful of items in their arms while they're trying to look around at your booth from purchasing from other vendors and just kind of fumbling around, and their helper because you're like, oh, let's get you a bag so that you can put all of your things in. It's going to be easier shopping for you. And 3, they just really appreciate it because it's kind of going above and beyond. I don't really think it's above and beyond, but a lot of people do think it is, tends to be above and beyond, because this is something that maybe a lot of people haven't thought about. Is one of those afterthoughts that like, oh shoot, I should have brought a bag with me. And you're like, here we go, we have a bag for you. I find that this size bag is pretty typical. So obviously this size bag is cheaper than this size bag to purchase because it's smaller. You can get a higher quantity of this for the same price as the larger bag. So I really try not to use the larger bags unless they are getting a lot or bigger items. This bag is great for the medium, smaller size items, maybe multiples of 2 smaller items. And then, of course, we have the Dollar Tree bag, which is see-through, which is awesome because then you can have items like this that go into this see-through bag. Kid sees another kid walking around with this, and then they're like, where did you find that? And it kind of promotes your stuff a little bit more. So having these little see-through bags, you can get like 16 of them in a bag for, I think it's like $1.50 now at the Dollar Tree, can not only be helpful for not only a person being able to carry around an item more easily with them and sticking more items in there while they're continue shopping, but also can possibly self-promote yourself for other people, other customers to see what they have and then draw interest, and then they can come to your table. I also like to use seasonal bags that I also find at the Dollar Tree, like these little Christmas themed items. You got a snowman, you got a cute little dog in a stocking, and they have handles, which makes it easy, and they are still fairly see-through. And then, of course, the Halloween themed items I have here, like these little eyeballs or these little jack-o'-lanterns, are fun as well. Cheap, get them at the Dollar Tree. They're seasonal items. You just go in during that season where they're being sold and you can get a bunch of them for pretty cheap. So I am totally about adding a little cost to myself to bring that convenience to the customer. So it's the ease of their shopping, and you did something that was helpful for them. So that is why I like to suggest bringing bags. Even though it is an extra expense, it's worth it in the long run. You can get a lot of bags, and not everyone's going to want to take a bag. I always offer to every single person that purchases from me, do you want a bag for that? 8 times out of 10, they're going to say no. But the offer of it alone is just another olive branch to give out to them. They're like, oh, great customer service, right? And so they might come back because of that. So now I want to talk about if someone comes to your booth and requests something, I always make a point to have it for my next market. Especially if it has been requested more than one time. That started with the cow. I had 3 or 4 markets where someone said, do you have a cow? Do you have a cow? Do you have a cow? Didn't have a cow at any of those markets, so lost that sale. So now every single market, I have a cow because it's requested so often. Same with the horse. I have a horse at a market and someone said, you really got to do horses. I'd love to see a horse. So I made sure to make a horse at that next market. And lo and behold, not the same person came to the market that had requested a horse at the last market, but another person grabbed it almost immediately. They were like, oh my goodness, you have a horse. That is so awesome. I've been looking for one for ages. And they grabbed it. And it was like, they needed that horse. And so if a person says, do you have, and I don't have that item, I make sure I have it at my next market. Sharks have been one that have been highly requested. Dinosaurs, I didn't have any dinosaurs at one of my markets that this past season. I've done dinosaurs in the past. I just didn't have any at that market because I didn't get around to making any. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. I had 3 different customers come to me and ask if I had dinosaurs at that market. I didn't have any, so I didn't sell any. So definitely, if you've been requested once, twice, or 3 times, do it. Make that thing. If it's along with the scheme of what you already do make or something of interest to you, obviously don't make something that has no interest, that doesn't pique your interest in the least bit. But obviously my display is a very specific to animals, plushy animals. And so someone comes in and says, do you have a hippo? And I don't have any hippos. I go home and make a hippo. If someone requests a monkey and I don't have a monkey, of course, I'm making 2 monkeys. I'm not making 1 monkey, I'm making 2 monkeys. And so just being aware of what requests you're getting and maybe keeping a conscious mind of those requests so that you kind of have another idea of what to bring for your next market. I'm telling you now, definitely try it out. Maybe you're not going to sell that item that was requested of you at the first market, but chances are if it's been requested once, twice, or 3 times, it's definitely going to go at some point and probably pretty quick. All right, on to my last tip. And this one is pretty simple, makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, it's pretty customary, but maybe you just need to hear it. And that is to always have a great positive attitude and a welcoming demeanor when someone comes to your booth. You don't want to be sitting there closed off, maybe on your phone, or kind of like sometimes, you can go to a market and not be in the best of moods. Maybe you're really tired. Maybe you've had a bad day. Maybe you haven't sold a thing and it's been all day long and you are just over it and you want to go home and you don't want to be there anymore and you feel discouraged. You feel down on yourself. You feel awful. I don't care. Positive to each and every person that comes into your booth, even if they're mean to you. I've had the last market I was at, actually, I had a really rude person come in and I just kind of killed them with kindness until they left. Yeah. Did they buy anything? Absolutely not. Was I expecting them to buy anything? Absolutely not. Did I even want to sell something to this person? Absolutely not. They were just a foul, awful, mean person. And yes, they were not nice. I definitely didn't want them in my space because they were kind of bringing my own mood down. But I killed them with the kindness. I was polite, I was nice, and I just waited for them to leave because, one, you don't know what that person has been through. They may just have had the worst experience of their life and they're just kind of putting off that mood onto you. I understand they don't deserve to treat you that way, especially when you are in a professional setting as such. But maybe your kind words will make them have a shift in their head and turn around and start being nice again. You don't know what they're going through. This is what I tell my son all the time too. If there's someone that's mean to you in school, just be nice to them. Don't be friends. You don't have to be friends with them. You don't have to play with them or anything, but be kind to them and move on. And don't get into a fight with them or anything because it's not worth your time. It's not worth your energy. I feel like treat people the way you want to be treated. Be kind to each and every person that comes into your booth is going to be much more open and welcoming for them to want to come back, to want to interact, to maybe want to look around. When you are closed off and you don't look very happy, chances are you're not gonna have anyone that's gonna want to come into your booth in the first place. Someone like this is not going to be getting as much interaction as someone that's upright, open, happy, you can tell, you can read body language. Even if you don't think you're reading body language, you're like reading somebody's body language. And when they're like this, it's not welcoming to you. I don't know how many times I have been interested in looking at someone else's booth when I am the customer, and I kind of scan over, and if I see them kind of just giving me the stink eye, just not really welcoming, not really open, it kind of makes me not want to go into their booth, because they're scaring me a little bit. They're not open, they're not friendly, and like I feel like I'm almost intruding into their space and inconveniencing them when they're sitting there. And of course, they're there to make sales. They're at a market, a craft market, to make sales. So they should want to have that sale, right? But sometimes some of them just don't look like they even want you in their space, and they don't even want to be there. I'm not going to go in and purchase something from them because I don't feel welcome there. And so just always have that in mind when you are doing these markets, that you are there for the customer. You are there for them. Make sure they understand that hey, I'm here for you. What can I do to help you? What can I do to bring you in? Instead of thinking of it more of like, well, they're here for me. No, you are doing a service for them. You are opening up your crafts, your talent to them, to invite them in to maybe enjoy some of your own creations. And they don't have to buy something from you. They choose to buy something from you, and they're not going to buy something from some sour-faced, angry person that doesn't seem to want to be there in the first place. That's just my thoughts. I feel like there have been an occasion or two where I have gone to a market and I've been having like just a really bad day or bad interaction with other people, and it has brought me down. And I honestly feel like energy is down, or when I'm discouraged, and I can exude that energy out to other people, and it makes my day continue to be bad, instead of turning it around and putting out a positive, nice, happy energy. Even if I'm not feeling it, fake it till you make it. And then, my day gets better because someone comes in and they're like, oh my goodness, you're so friendly, you're so kind, you have a conversation. And then they are more willing to come in and purchase from you. But that is everything I had to talk to you guys about. I know it was a lot. This is probably the longest video I've done in a while, of just talking. I don't typically just do these sit down, talk with you videos. I know it was a lot of information. I hope you got all the way through this video without getting distracted or leaving. If you did get all the way through this video, please let me know by adding a heart of any color, maybe multiple hearts, to let me know you did get all the way through this video. Let me know what tips were helpful for you, or maybe if you have your own tips that you would like to add in the comments below to help other people out. I would love that. Information I can receive or you can receive is wonderful, and I would love to see if you guys have any tips of your own that you would like to add. And that is everything. So make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will talk to you guys all on the next one. I have some markets coming up. That's why I wanted to do this video, because I don't know about you, but market season up upon us, and what better way to have a successful season but then to maybe take some tips from other people. All right, well, that's everything. So I will talk to you guys on the next one. Bye.